rise and unite, fueling the passion, igniting the light. Through highs and lows, we'll stand as one. A legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together we roar, together we roar. Detroit Lions will rise, with a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. So let's lift our voices, let's turn it up loud. For the love of the Lions, we'll always be proud.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. I apologize for the late start. Just trying to get a few things tidied up, which didn't really get finished, but it is what it is. Long night last night with Halloween. Hope you all had some fun and not recovering from a sugar hangover this morning, like I'm sure most of you are. But that's all right. It happens once a year for most of us. Get to splurge a little bit on some candy, or the kiddos, or whatever. It's kind of a light night for us. We didn't have a whole lot. So you guys let me know in the chat. Did you guys have a lot of trick-or-treaters last night? We didn't. We didn't really have a whole lot. But, oh well. I can't say that I had to complain a whole lot. We were doing tape review with the members last night, which a lot of you missed. A lot of you missed the tape review last night. It's pretty good. We did a little overview of the Titans and the Packers. Taking a look at Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark. And what is ahead for our Detroit Lions this weekend is what we're going to discuss right now. Good morning, Eric. How you doing today?
I am fantastic as always. Had 125-ish trick-or-treaters, so we were kind of low this year, about half of what we usually get. But I think it was due to the rain and the cold up here in the UP. It was only in the 40s.
Yeah, I'll never understand why Halloween has changed so much, but it used to be fun. We used to go out all night and trick or treat. But all right, so let's get into it. Lions news and rumors is where we're going to start this morning. Right after we get through the list of audience members that have joined us, we've got a couple of things ahead of us. Number one, we got to get those likes up. We get the likes up, we get the ads off. We want to get ads off as quickly as possible, so let's try to get up to 50 likes if we can. Late start, so let's try by 8:40 in the morning. Get over 50, we turn the ads off, and then you guys don't have to deal with it. So good morning. We got Riley O'Brien in the house at 2:04 in the morning. Man, it's early. Mike P in the house. Tracy. We got Eric. Richard Fitzwell. The Central Scrutinizer. The Bronson Shields. Jody Carithers. Trace. Gino. Bo Booth. Motown Mitch, Big Papa's in the house, Jay-Z, King SJ, John Desage, Casey, John Doe, Michael Bodo, Arden Key is the key. I believe it too, man. I'm hoping he's the key. I'm hoping he's going to get unlocked. The way that this is trending, I'm just going to say this. Pay attention on Sunday. Pay attention. There could be a couple of guys sitting out. And we seen it last week with Uche. And there was a lot of fluff headed our way with the whole Uche thing. Didn't pan out, right? But now we need to pay attention to what happens this weekend with other healthy scratches. I'm telling you right now, if some of these bigger names are popping up on the healthy scratch report, they're probably going to be in Detroit by Monday. Trades usually don't happen on a Sunday, on a game day. Not that it hasn't ever happened, but it usually doesn't happen. So maybe the Lions are just pushing this as far out as they can for cap reasons. I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe they do nothing. Interesting tidbit. So, Eric, I don't know how much of the film review you were in last night, but watching Muhammad, I mean, our leading pressure guy in his first week in action, I was really pleasantly surprised with how disciplined he played the game.
As was I. He set a good edge, and he was, I'm telling you, that close 5 or 6 times to actually getting home. So give this guy a couple weeks in our system, and let's see what he can do. And don't be surprised if Brad trades for no one.
I think that's the heartbreaker, right? If Brad trades for no one, you're going to have a lot of fans that are just like, what are we doing? Like, we want a Super Bowl, man. We're begging. It's been so long since we've been anything. Here we are, 2 seasons in a row. Make a move.
Yeah, and you're watching the Chiefs make moves. You're watching the Ravens make moves. You're watching the Vikings make a move while we do nothing.
I want to bring in Dan Miller's conversation from Woodward Sports. We'll highlight just 1 2-minute segment of it this morning because he makes some very valid points. And there's a couple of other things that he says in there that I want to make sure that I drive home to the fans like myself that see the articles. All right. We see the videos pop up. We see all the people talking about stuff in social media. And I think Dan he probably didn't do this by purpose, but I think he kind of squashed the whole rumor situation, right? And that's why I want to bring it in. And he has some really good things to say. I was going to do the whole thing, but it's like 15 minutes long, and it's just too long. So DLR Van Halen, $2 super chat says, what happened to the Texans? They stink. They're banged up right now, and they're kind of banged up at a right time for the Lions. They just lost Stephon Diggs. Who else did they lose? They just lost somebody else over the weekend, didn't they?
I don't remember, but they were down. I mean, Nico Collins is out. They were.
Nico's back though.
No, not yet. No, because he's on my fantasy team. He's definitely not playing.
I thought he was back this week though. I thought I read something that he was back. Well, they lost 3 players yesterday.
Yeah.
They lost 3 players in the Jets game, so they're extremely banged up right now.
Yes.
I caught the tail end of, and I didn't mean to cut you off there. I caught the tail end of a Texans podcast last night, or at least some guys going live. Something weird with this new S24 Ultra that I don't know why this phone is so different, but I'm getting so much more like information, like so much more. It's weird. Like I'm getting all of these different things coming up on YouTube, and I don't know why. I've never seen half of this stuff before, but I'm seeing it now. And just like I said last night too, if you guys saw the picture after we did the tape review, YouTube said that I did that video 54 years ago. Thanks, YouTube. You're really helping out the content, by saying it's 54 years old. You weren't even around 54 years ago. I wasn't even around 54 years ago, thankfully. Anyway, not to get too off subject here, but the Texans are banged up. So this is a team that, Lions are going to be facing here in short order. And it could be lining up, for another domino that's going to fall at the right time, where they're coming in banged up and we're not. I mean, we've been banged up, so we've been playing light. We know what it's like. We pivot. So trade rumors, let's start with that this morning. NFL trade rumors, Adam Schefter believes the Detroit Lions will add an edge. Well, Dan Miller believes that too. But I'll highlight this one from Jeremy Reisman this morning. This was at 6 a.m. this morning. He says, we are inching closer and closer to the NFL trade deadline on Tuesday, November 5th, and the Detroit Lions have still remained moveless. ESPN's NFL insider Adam Schefter believes that will eventually change. During Thursday's Get Up episode, Schefter was asked if he believes the Lions will trade for a pass rusher before the deadline. Here's what he had to say. Quote, yes, I do think you're going to see that. You saw Dan Campbell get all fired up. He looked like the cat who ate the canary. They don't have a deal done yet, but there are a couple of pass rushers out there right now. Dariussmith, Azeez Ojulari in New York. There are a couple of guys that make a lot of sense for the Lions. And if you are this close and this good, why are you not willing to part with some mid-round pick to get in some kind of reinforcement to hold down the fort so Aiden Hutchinson can make it back for the Super Bowl if you make it that far? One, I will say Adam pumping the rumor mill here that he thinks that Aiden's going to make it back to the Super Bowl if we get that far. I honestly feel, and I hate to be, the bubble burster, I honestly feel it's way too short of a time. Way too short. Not saying that he can't, but I highly doubt that he can. I would love to see him do it, but at the same time, I think it's another disaster waiting to happen. If Aiden were to come back in the Super Bowl and break that leg again or re-injure it again, it could, one, end his career, or two, where he's gone for, another 4 to 6 months, which puts next season in jeopardy. I don't think that's a good answer. But sticking to the topic here, what do you think, Eric? Do you think that the Lions are going to add somebody?
In my heart of hearts, I think the Lions go with no one. I think we stick with what we have and what we can find off the scrap heap. That's just the way I'm getting myself ready for Brad Holmes not to make a trade. I think that there's a very, very high possibility. I'm going to say a 90% possibility that Brad does not release his clutch on those draft picks and just keeps a hold of it for now.
Wow. He's double clutching, huh?
Yeah.
I'm clutching, staying in first gear.
Yeah. About 90% that he holds on to those and we don't make a trade.
Well, I can't say that I would disagree. I really can't. I'm 50-50 right now. The whole time I've been trying to paint this story for everybody where everyone's jumping on my case a little bit because I'm trying to paint the picture that it's not all doom and gloom. But some people think I'm trying to paint a picture of doom and gloom. No. When I come prepared with some facts and some statistics and some, analysis, and I say, hey, look, it's not all that bad. Look at what we are doing with what we have. Yes, these are backups of backups. These are guys off the street. These are practice squad guys. Muhammad is a guy that's been around and clearly had shown on Sunday he's been around because he was around the football all day long, making plays. And we witnessed it last night in the tape review. Muhammad was everywhere. So when I come here on the morning show and I try to paint you guys a picture that it's not that bad. And if we don't make a move, doesn't mean that we can't win a Super Bowl. I'm sure it's because you guys are listening to other people that are painting the picture that are saying, we're never going to win anything without a pass rush. We're never going to win anything without an edge rusher. We're never going to get help opposite of Aiden Hutchinson if we don't bring somebody in. And I've heard it for 3 years. And you know what I've seen for 3 years? The Lions continue to climb without doing anything.
Yep.
You know what I've seen the last 2 seasons? The Lions are better this year. And we are missing half of our defense. So there's more than one way to skin the cat here. There always has been. The biggest need that we had this offseason was interior defensive line. Without a good interior defensive line, nothing else really matters. You can look at any of the teams that are in the top 10 right now. And maybe we'll highlight that this morning. Eric, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the top 10 power rankings.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll do a segment here in just a moment where we'll walk down that list and let's look at their depth chart and let's see how good their interior defensive line is and how good their cornerback and safety room is compared to the rest of their team. That's the kind of information that I try to bring forward because when I look at the Lions, that's what we're dealing with. We've got 2 of the best safeties in the league. I mean, literally in the league. Like number 1 and number 3 or number 1 and number 4, whatever Kirby is. I think Kirby's tied for second with
Jair.
No. He's tied for second with McKinney. Brian Branch is number 1. And beyond that, I mean, our corners, they're not getting the fair shake, but they're playing at a high level too. So there's a little bit more that's going into this than just grabbing an edge rusher. You have to look at the rest of the team and how it fits. So that was topic number 1. Topic number 2, or headline number 2, I apologize, is... Oh, let's see. Let's grab another one here. I'm trying to find one from old Doc Macaroon. I haven't highlighted him in a minute. Where's Doc at? Here we go. Here's John. Detroit Lions 2024 trade deadline rumors and tracker 1 hour ago. So hot off the press. The Detroit Lions are among the NFL teams pundits expect to make a trade to potentially upgrade their defensive line. Detroit's defense has not been able to pressure the quarterback at the same rate since Aiden Hutchinson was injured against the Dallas Cowboys. John, you know I love you, dude, but I'm going to have to respectfully disagree. If we're talking rate or are we talking numbers? Pressure numbers, the amount of pressures has been lower, but the rate has not. Matter of fact, I went over this the other day. Let me get my notes open here from the other day. And I did show everybody that was in the chat last night for the live review. I write a lot, and people can attest to that. I write everything I talk about. And I used to write. I used to have my website, my blog, everything was up, but trying to get it reworked. Chef was going to help build the website, and once that gets done, I'll be writing again, because I always used to write and then do a show or, a segment or release them kind of at the same time. Or where is it? Need to find my notes. Got 3 different pages open here. But the other day I went through that and I was talking about how, the Lions from week to week to week were actually looking pretty good. So here we go. Week 6 versus the Cowboys. The Lions were 5th in pressures with 18. The pressure rate was the 5th best at 47.4%. We had 5 sacks in that game, 1 to Aiden. But time to throw was 3 seconds. Week 7 versus the Vikings, the Lions had 12 pressures, which was good for 12th in the league. Pressure rate was 34.3%. Sacks 4. Time to throw, a little bit less than week 6, 2.96 seconds, good for 10th in the league. So in week 6, we were 5th best in pressures. We dropped to 12th. And in week 6, we were 5th best in pressure rate. We dropped to 18th. But then in week 8 versus the Titans, pressures 22. So we had more than we did against the Cowboys. We were tied for 4th. Pressure rate, we were 7th place at 39%. We only needed 1 sack. But our time to throw for the opposing quarterback dropped all the way to 2.86 seconds. So almost a whole quarter second less than where we were when Aiden was in the game. So if you want to get real finicky about 0.1%, yeah, you could say it's less, but I think the narrative here is not by much. I mean, you're talking splitting hairs here. I don't think that would be a fair shake for our defensive linemen. That I think they're holding up quite well, to be honest with you. Eric, what do you think? Do you think they're holding up pretty well?
I do. And if you've watched one of the games on Prime on Thursday nights, they have the next gen stats on the bottom of the screen. And the one I was paying attention to for the little bit of the game I watched last night, in the first half, CJ Stroud had 3.48 seconds to throw the ball.
Wow, that's a good offensive line.
In the first half, he was just back there forever. And the thing that was happening, though, is their corners and their safeties were locking people down, and he had to throw the ball away most of the time because he had no one open to throw it to. And you would think after almost 4 seconds that someone would get open, but they just weren't. All of their wide receivers are down for the count.
Yeah.
Their tight end just could not hold on to the ball last night.
So let me pick on a couple of people in the chat, and Michael Bodo, I'm not picking on you like from that sense of the term. I'm picking your statements so we can carry the conversation a little bit. Okay. So the number one thing that I saw you just stated a minute ago, where was it? With a healthy Hutch all of last year, we didn't have a great pass rush. With him out, it's definitely taken a step back. I would say that's false because it hasn't taken a step back. If anything, it has gotten better. Pressures, the amount of pressures may be smaller, but the efficiency and the way that we're winning is getting better week by week. Some of the best defenses in the NFL right now, Green Bay Packers, Minnesota Vikings, they have a collection, a committee of people getting to the ball. They're using every player on the field. I would say that you are limiting yourself if you're putting all of your eggs in one basket, to one defensive end or two defensive ends to try to win a game for you defensively. I think that's a very poor way to go against any offense, any scheme, and try to win. I think that you want everybody, that's why I call it a hive defense. You want everybody inserted into that defense winning and finding ways to win and finding ways to help. The second thing that you had mentioned is that keep in mind that the Lions defense has not gone up against a stout offensive line since Hutch got hurt. That is also false.
The Vikings.
Even Green Bay's O-line isn't great. That's also false. So again, I'm not picking on you, but I'm utilizing what you are saying. Let me get the ads off. If you guys got to 50, I don't even know, but I'm just going to turn them off. I want to keep everybody engaged this morning.
We're really close.
The reason why it's false is because Aiden Hutchinson went up against third and fourth string offensive tackles the entire time he was in. The first 6 weeks, he went up against third and fourth string offensive tackles.
Yeah.
That's why the pressure numbers were so high. Had he been going up against first stringers, I guarantee you it wouldn't have been the same. Because if you look at Hutchinson's track record, his pressures are lower against top-tier tackles. His sack numbers disappear against top offensive lines and top-tier tackles. The proof is there. I don't even need to go through it this morning. I know it's there. And you can look for yourself on ProFootballReference.com or PFF or NFL Pro, whatever you want to use. The information is there. But the second part of what you had mentioned is the Lions have not gone up against a stout offensive line. The Titans have two of the best tackles in the league per PFF ranking. Now, their interior guard play and center play wasn't the greatest. That's why we need a good interior defensive line. See, offenses, they key in on their tackles. Your blind side and your front side, you want those two to be your best players on the team and your center. That's typically where offenses start. Left tackle, right tackle, center. And then they add the guards. So if you can get interior defensive line play to play at a different level, you're going to be able to affect offenses a little bit better, a little bit quicker until they can secure the rest of their offensive linemen. And usually by that time, the tackles are usually on their way out or having to renegotiate contracts. It takes 4 to 5 seasons to build an offensive line. It just does. Unless your crazy, methods that Jerry, used to do for the Cowboys and just spend all of his picks on offensive linemen, which he did for like 2-3 seasons in a row. And so he was stacked for well over a decade. But let's talk about offensive line. Who have the Lions faced? Well, we know the Lions have the number one offensive line, so they face themselves every day in practice, every day. Kansas City Chiefs are number 2, Colts are number 3, Packers are number 4. We're going up against the 4th best offensive line this week. Eagles are number 5, Buffalo Bills at number 6, Chargers at number 7, Commanders at number 8. Oh, Vikings, number 9. Panthers at 10, Ravens at 11, Niners at 12, Falcons at 13, Bucks at 14. We face them in week 2. We'll see the Bears. They're 17th. The Dallas Cowboys were 18th. And I think that's where it starts to slide. Cardinals at 21 weren't the best, but they were also extremely banged up. So again, I'm not picking on you, Bodo. I just want to make sure that I set the stage correctly here. Did you have something else you were saying there? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, not at all. I was just saying I personally think the Vikings have a great offensive line. Especially when Darius was in there. I know he got hurt for the year, but when we played them, Darius was in.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to make sure we keep it 100 in here. Let's keep going with the Macaroon's story here, and then we'll move on. So he says General Manager Brad Holmes and the front office have until Tuesday afternoon to work out a trade. Speaking on 97 Won the Ticket, Dan Campbell explained what he observed from Detroit's outside linebackers and edge rusher against the Tennessee Titans. Now, I have to say, I missed this conversation. So this is a first for me to hear what he said. He says, well, look, this is a quote, Dan Campbell. Well, look, I thought Houston was better this game. I said the same thing in the tape last night. I saw a great bend. He still has it. He goes on to say, I thought he was better. Campbell said, Quadin Muhammad, I thought he did exactly what we thought he would do and we wanted him to do. Bring your lunch pail and go to work. He brought this, play violent, play physical, finish on the plays, and I thought he did that. And so that was good. He's experienced. He's played in this league, so he's got some awareness about him at that position. Spot frickin' on Dan Campbell. Watch the tape with us on Tuesday nights or Thursday nights, whenever we do it. Watch the tape because you will learn so much. Last night, one of the first plays we watched of Muhammad, he was crashing down the line, right? And it was a fake handoff. And then he rolled out. He rolled out to his right side, so he bootlegged back to the right. Normally, what you would see if that was Hutchinson, he would crash the line. He would continue to crash, and maybe not pick up that there was a fake handoff there, and go after the running back from time to time. Other times we've seen Hutch peel off and then go after the quarterback. But Muhammad picked it up right away. Nothing got past him. Now, he didn't get outside as quickly as he probably would have liked, but he still made the right decision. He saw the ball. See ball, get ball, right? So he saw the ball, made a perfect play, very sound technique, very smart, intuitive, made the right decision. That's just that's all we need. Just disciplined, smart football. Set the edge, contain the edge, fire when you need to fire. Use every, bit of ammo you have in your ammo crate, and every technique that you have, to fight these tackles and try to win. But what I saw out of Muhammad in this first game, I can't say that I was surprised, but I was. I can't say that I was surprised 100% because he has really good experience. Bobu says, Muhammad is being slept on, in my honest opinion. Yeah, I think he is. And Tarantino's point, he's also just shaking off the rust. Larhoven, we need to be more concerned about Taylor Decker. Yeah, especially in this game. And Dale says, didn't Houston play at Jackson State along with Malik Willis? I think their time may have crossed. I don't know. Thank you for bringing that up. We'll look. Casey, DJ Reader, Ali McNeil, Broderick Martin, nearly 1,000 pounds of chuck up the middle. A few mid-defensive ends should be sufficient along with decent DBs and solid linebackers. Great frickin' point, Casey. And that's what I've been saying this whole season. If you set the interior, all you really need is complementary football around you. And our DBs are getting better week by week by week. Our safeties have been shut down for the last 4 or 5 weeks. So we have really good things going in front of us. Now, again, I'm not saying that I don't want us to pick somebody up. I just would hate to see the Lions spend oogles and oogles of dollars in draft capital. I think that there's some other options available. Arden Key, Jadeveon Clowney, even dariussmith, at the higher end. I doubt Azeez Ojulari gets moved. I highly doubt, but I could be wrong. Quote here on Dan Campbell for Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah did a few things too. He's young. He's a little bit raw. He hasn't played a whole lot. So this is a chance to get him in there and get him some work too. But there's going to be growing pains when you're a guy that hasn't played in this league very much. I was encouraged by all of them, and I did think they all got a little bit better or did things that we thought that they would do or hoped that they would do. So good spotlight there by John Macaroon. Okay, what do you got up this next?
I did. I was looking up to see if Malik and James Houston played together, but I can't find where Malik ever played for Jackson State.
I don't know. Did they play at Florida together or something?
I don't know. It says that he played for the Liberty Flames, and then he went to Auburn.
Yeah, I remember him being at Liberty.
And that's all it says for him. Yeah, it says
Maybe he didn't play at Jackson State. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, he played for Auburn University first, then transferred to Liberty University. So that's all it says.
I guess the answer would be no then.
Yep.
Okay. Third and final highlight is going to be from Detroit Lions webpage. Oh, maybe not. I hate how they do this. That they act like they're putting out an article and it's not. It's just a whole bunch of articles. But we'll just comment on it. So the Lions activated rookie offensive guard Christian Mahogany this week. I firmly believe that this is in an effort to go big on the offensive line this weekend. And we'll talk about some of that. But I think that they're looking to have backups. One, Taylor Decker's got a chest injury. If that were to be exacerbated this weekend, trying to fight off Clark and Gary, we may need some help. I'm hoping that Ben Johnson and Hank Fraley have already dialed in a way to get Taylor Decker some help this weekend. The tape that we watched last night, I probably didn't do as good of a job highlighting the Packers defense, the defensive plays as much as I wanted to. But there was some significant plays in there that stuck out. One, Rashawn Gary's got a very quick first step. And that is going to be problematic for Taylor Decker. He has been struggling with speed rushers this entire season. And what it looks like to me is that Taylor Decker sliding left to right is not putting himself in a position to win. He's not putting himself in a good position. Just looking at his body mechanics, I highlighted last night, I drew some arrows. He was leaned back on his back feet more often than he was leaning in forward. So all it takes for a defensive end, when you're on your back foot, pop your chest, you're going to take Taylor Decker out of the play. And I know it's a little bit deeper than that, right? He's a 330-pound man or however big Taylor Decker is. But when you're on your back foot going up against another 300-pound man or 270-pound man that's got extreme physical strength, it does not take much to tip a mountain over. And that's what we're seeing right now, is Taylor Decker's off balance. And that balance is going to be key against the Packers this weekend. Any news, notes, questions, anything for you, Eric?
No, not right now. I did watch Dr. Liao's podcast last night, and he was talking about Taylor Decker and said normally when they list somebody as chest, that it normally typically has something to do with their lungs or inside their chest, not like ribs, because that's usually done as ribs, and it's not usually a pectoral because that's listed as a pectoral. So he said it's most likely something to do with his lungs or inside his chest. So that might give us a little bit of insight into what's going on with Taylor Decker. Maybe he's got
it's kind of a weird take because
some bruising.
What did they list it as an illness? If you got something inside your lungs, that would sound like an illness to me.
Yeah, I don't know. So it's very strange that it's just listed as a chest, and that's all that's listed.
I've never seen a chest injury.
Yeah, he thought it was very strange that it was just listed as a chest instead of a, listed as a muscle pull or pectoral or ribs. Because usually when you have bruised ribs or broken ribs, it's always listed as ribs. And he was wondering if maybe that was what it kind of was something to do with his ribs or his upper chest. I thought that was kind of different.
So the last part I want to highlight, Christian Boer put out a article on the 29th saying wasting energy. Campbell downplays imminent trade rumors. So when you saw the whole, act, I guess you want to call it, by Dan Campbell, there's a reason for it. So Campbell quipped that there could be, and then said again, and then said so again when asked about it again. Wow, that's terrible writing. The second time he was jumping up and down. Naturally, it was a hot topic of conversation on social media. However, Campbell clarified that he did not mean anything by his comments on Monday during his weekly radio appearance. Hence the reason why I didn't jump to make a video. But here's the quote. Yeah, well, no. Dave Burkett asked me a question and I answered it, and then he wouldn't take that answer. So I jumped up and down with the same answer, That's literally all it was. Yeah, you guys are wasting energy. So I guess put that in your pipe and smoke it, huh? Oh, Dan, he's just,
I think for the first time ever, Dan is being a little deceitful when he's up at the podium. He's not just spewing the truth, and he's not just letting everybody know exactly who's hurt and exactly how they're hurt. So he's learning sometimes you got to be a little deceitful when you're up there. You can't just open it up to everything.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say deceitful versus he's doing what coaches do. He's trying to be, I think, protective of what they're doing. Dan, look, I know you would agree, Eric, that the Lions are in very rare air here. Very unique territory for them. And he's enjoying it. He doesn't have the stress like he did early in the season. He's stressed, but you can tell that he's happy, right? He's having fun. And I think right now he's trying to protect as much as he can. But I would agree with you that he's trying to protect a little bit more of what they're trying to do or not do. And without putting up a bunch of smoke screens, I feel like he's doing a good job, at doing whatever he can to limit information from escaping the walls of Allen Park.
Yeah. He's not letting the cat out of the bag, so to say. He's not giving the information out freely now, which is kind of strange for Dan Campbell because he wears his heart on his sleeve and he tells everybody everything.
Yeah. So for me, I caught on to Brad and Dan the last couple of seasons, and it gave me great content to talk about. I got a lot of things right. Just by paying attention to some of the things that they were saying. And I think it shot myself in the foot because if I wouldn't have said anything, who knows? Maybe we'd still get some of those answers. But I said something and it slowly started to dwindle. And now we're not getting the same Dan or the same Brad that we did before. They have totally changed how they are approaching, in my opinion, how they're approaching the media. And I think that things have also changed with the media. So from last year to this year, when they would go live on the podium, it was live. Like everybody was getting it at the same time. We are now, it seems like, getting it after the media members, or it's starting after, they're already in the room, it's being put up on YouTube or wherever. The media guys are getting it first. They can get their stories out first is what I'm taking from it, which is fine. They're there doing the work, right? But us little guys, we want to do the work too. Just saying.
And if you notice too, they'll schedule his press conference for say 9 a.m. and it doesn't start till like 9:24 a.m.
Yeah, they're already started. You start the show and it's already well into it.
Yep. So
yeah,
that's what's happening.
Let's see here. I just saw something pop up in here. Someone, I think it was Jay-Z, had made a statement. So thank you, Ed Eric, for bringing up Dr. Lau. At Will talked about Dex Balance. Dr. Lau talked about his off-season foot surgery, maybe affecting him. It's a good point, JC. Good point.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Maybe he's got some reoccurrence or something popping up right now.
Mm-hmm. Because that was something he dealt with since college. He said it was something weird.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I have no idea. I do not remember. So it is Friday. It is November 1st. We are 4 days away from the trade deadline. What do you think is going to happen, Eric? You know what? Let's listen to what Dan Miller said.
There we go.
I'm going to bring in Dan Miller for a moment. Let's listen to what he said, and then I'm going to come back and ask the same question.
Perfect.
Hey, Dan, another week to go before the trade deadline is over. We haven't heard anything yet. I know Dan had some fun with Dave Burkett and the guys the other day about who they're going to trade with, who they bring it up. You saw Dan, how giddy he was. What's your thought going up? We got a week left to go. Do you see one guy coming, two guys coming, or are we going to do the practice squad route?
I mean, look, in my mind, at least one. I do think they'll make a move. I don't know what it will be. I don't know what level it will be. You know, you can. I don't think it'll be the multi-first round guy, but maybe it's the dariussmith that's a little bit below that. The part of this that we don't have the complete picture on is who are the teams they're talking to, and how many other teams are they talking to, and clearly they're going to be trying to get a bidding war going here. But I do believe that the Lions understand the urgency.
Okay, I want to pause there and highlight this for the first part here. The number one thing that I want to pull away from this, well, it's not the number one thing. It's one of the things. Dan Miller doesn't even know who Brad Holmes is talking to. If Dan Miller doesn't know, can you honestly say that anybody else would know? The guy that's in the building more than anyone? Outside of the players and the coaches, Dan Miller's in that building all the time. If Dan Miller has no idea what teams they're talking to and what players they are targeting, would anybody else know? This is why I get so sick of clickbait. And I don't understand why people follow it or believe in it or give it the time of day. You're just being lied to repeatedly. Like, I try not to lie to people. Like, this channel is supposed to be about the truth, transparency, the honesty, right? We try to do media right. We'll talk about players. Sure. We'll talk about ideas, speculation, but we at least will tell you that. It's speculation. It's rumor. It's an idea. It's an opinion. But diving in and just saying, yep, this person's talking to X amount of teams, or this, Brad was just on the phone with this many teams, or there is a bidding war happening right now, it's all false. Now, Dan just mentioned that he doesn't know how many people that they're talking to, how many teams, and that there probably will be a bidding war. Of course there will be, especially if there's multiple teams involved in trying to pull away, one of these defensive ends or outside linebackers. So I wanted to highlight that point first, that the guy that's in the room the most, if he doesn't know, nobody else knows. It's just speculation. And I think it would be well done and deserved to at least let the fans know that. Because all we've seen for the last 2 weeks is a lot of arguing. The fan base is just in an uproar, arguing with each other, creating this stir crazy mentality. Because this person said this and that person said this. And it's just like, come on. It's not the way media is supposed to work. At least it wasn't. I don't know what's changed. We'll keep on going here.
With their pass rush and just how good this football team is. This is a Super Bowl team, potentially. But it is less of one if you cannot pressure the passer or find some way to get a consistent rush. Because even in that game this past weekend, look, there were times where it felt like Rudolph just had too much time. And if you have a more accomplished quarterback, that's really going to hurt you. And it hurts.
All right, so let's break this down. I think it is a very fair point. A couple points in here that he mentioned. Number one, if you have a more accomplished quarterback, it could hurt you. Number two, having a consistent pass rush, or where he mentions that Rudolph maybe had a little bit more time at certain times. I think that we're just going to have to deal with that. I think all teams deal with that. I don't think there's one game that I've ever watched where, quarterback was just under pressure 100% of the time. It's never happened. But if they're under pressure, 30, 40% of the time, I think you're winning. I think you're doing a good job. Those are pretty hard stats to put up. Anybody that's getting pressure on 40% of plays, that defense is doing a damn good job. And that's where the Lions are. They're right around that average of 40%. So I think that they're finding ways to win. But to Dan's point here, if we go up against a more accomplished quarterback, yep, things could probably be a little bit different, meaning Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to extend the play with his legs. Lamar Jackson's going to be able to extend the play with his legs. And if you don't have, outside containment, if you don't have, guys on the outside that can get to the quarterback, then yes, it's going to be problematic, or it could be. But I think that we are in another vehicle here where we have interior pressure already, and the back end of our defense is playing at such a high level that we can get away with some of those deficiencies, if you even want to call it that. If Muhammad continues to play the way that he's playing this past weekend, I would say we are okay. But would I love to have a more accomplished defensive end? Yes. But have we also seen Aiden Hutchinson, the best defensive end, by many accounts, or a top 10, at least by all accounts, get burned by all of these quarterbacks? Absolutely. Have every single one of these defensive ends in this league been burned by these quarterbacks? 100%. So it doesn't really matter who we have. They're still going to have struggles. They're still going to have difficulty. And that's where, for me, adding a top tier guy doesn't make a ton of sense. Eric, what do you think?
I just, listen, if I'm Brad Holmes, I am going to do a risk assessment, and I'm going to weigh the risks and I'm going to weigh the rewards, because we know that Brad Holmes can take a draft pick in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, and he can hit a home run. And then he's also got to look at, what is it going to cost to get one of these guys? Now, if I was Brad Holmes, what I would do is exactly what he's doing right now. I would wait in the weeds, and I would just sit back. I would make my initial call and say, how much is it going to cost for player X and player Y? Okay. All right. Thanks a lot. Hang up the phone, call the next guy. Hey, how much is it going to cost for player X, oh, he's not available. Okay. Call the next guy. And then I'm not going to make an offer to anyone. I'm going to sit back and wait until very close to the trade deadline, or for the trade deadline itself. And what I'm going to do is what the Ravens just did with that wide receiver from the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers had offers from 2 teams, and very late in the process, the Ravens came in and gave the best offer of the 3, so they traded him to the Ravens. And the Ravens were not in talks, didn't know anything else, and came in late and swooped and stole this guy from 2 other teams. So if I'm Brad, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to swoop somebody at the end, and I'm going to see exactly what all of my choices are, not just 1 or 2. And I'm not going to focus in on one over the other just quite yet. I'm going to wait until the very end, and I'm going to swoop the one that fits my team the best. And that's the one I'm going to give it my all for. And if I get them, I get them. If I don't, I don't. And right now, I think there's about a 90% chance we don't get anyone else.
I would tend to agree with a lot of that. And I think that the idea there of kind of waiting in the weeds, ready to strike, makes sense. And I would say that a lot of people are going to say, but if you don't act now, what if someone else swipes them from underneath you? And I think that if it was going to happen, it probably would have happened by now.
Yep.
There's not a lot of teams, very few, if any, that are willing to part with $20+ million in capital and first, a second, or third, or multiples of said picks for that player. Very, very few. Probably less than 3. That's why, as far as edge goes, we've only seen 1.
Yep.
And he's an outside linebacker. 1 get moved in the last couple of weeks, and that was Joshua Uche.
Yeah, and if you're a team like the Browns or the Bengals or the Raiders, and you have this edge that everyone wants, are you going to trade them for the first offer that somebody throws at you, or the second or the third? No, you're going to wait until the trade deadline, and you're going to get the maximum amount for your player. You're going to get whatever you can for that player. Let's turn the tables. Let's say it was Hutch everybody wanted because we were 1-8 and we were going nowhere, or 1-7 and we were going nowhere. All right, we're in last place. We're looking at the number 1 pick in the draft. We need to rebuild. We need a new quarterback. Our team's awful. The only thing we have left is Hutch, okay, that we got a couple years ago. He's still got a year or two left on his plate, on his contract, and everybody's offering us multiple firsts and another player and this and that. Wouldn't you want to maximize what you could get for them by waiting until the end? Because it's not only us. I think it's also the team that might be the seller. And they might have seller's remorse. They're thinking, man, I don't want to get rid of this guy. This guy's my building block. This is the guy that I want to build my team around. We've already got this. Why get rid of him and then have to start all over again?
Yeah. I want to wind back to the chat real quick. Michael Bodo asked a question when Von Miller was traded to the Rams the year they went to the Super Bowl. Goff was not there. That was in 2021 when they went to the Super Bowl. Goff he went to the Super Bowl, I believe, in 2019. So they didn't make any large moves the year that Goff brought him to the Super Bowl. So that was after Goff left. And even to that point, I mean, I guess I would throw this out there and maybe I'll do this for later on today. I'll take a look at, a lot of the trades and everything that happened, towards the end of the trade deadline. And where did those teams end up? Where did they end up at the end of the season? Because I'll say this, I mean, I just based off memory, few and far between do those trades really ever help out that team to the point that they go deeper in the playoffs, or they make the playoffs, or they get to the Super Bowl, or win a Super Bowl. It is a total crapshoot. Matter of fact, we highlighted, I don't know if you were in the show the other day. I don't think you were, but I highlighted defensive line and, on Super Bowl teams. You kept hearing that defense wins championships. No, they don't. They haven't. For the last 15 years, the teams that are winning Super Bowls have the number 1 to number 5 offense. And there's a whole graph that I have that it's been tracked for like the last 50 years or whatever. I mean, it's been tracked like every year for the Super Bowl era. And I utilize that graph, and you'll see in there that sometimes you'll have a number 1 offense and the number 15 defense that is won. Very few and far between, but typically it takes a top 10 offense and defense. Moreover, a top 5 offense and a top 10 defense to win a Super Bowl. But the question has always been, or, certain people will always say, well, sacks are the only way you're going to win a Super Bowl. BS. Because the guys that were in the Super Bowl that you're expecting to get sacks did not. And did not during the playoffs. The large part of their production came prior to the playoffs. But when you start to go up against, the elite of the elite, those stats start to drop off. Pressures, everything drops off. So to that point, yeah, you probably do need to have better competition to face better competition. But I would be firm in my stance to say that we have the best practice situation out of any team. Our defensive line goes up against the number 1 offensive line every single day. If you don't think that these guys are ready, if you don't think that they're getting tested every single day by Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker, even though Taylor Decker's struggling a little bit, I would say that you're missing a big point, that they have a great situation. Let's finish out Dan Miller's interview, and then we'll move on.
At times with Sam Darnold, and the quarterbacks only get better as you move through the season to the playoffs and get into that situation. So I still believe they will make a move. I don't base that on anything other than I believe they understand the urgency. I believe they understand the need. And I believe they understand the potential of this team and how you might be impacting the potential of this team if you don't add something to it.
Great points. Great points by Dan Miller. And I will reiterate this again. Dan has said that he thinks that the Lions would do something, again, only based on the idea that if they don't, that they might impact the trajectory of this team for the rest of the season. It's not based on insider information. It's not based on conversations with Brad Holmes. It's not based on conversations with Dan Campbell. It's not based on him being in the room, because he doesn't know. The reason why, and he may know a lot more, and I'm not saying anything negative against Dan. Dan's an awesome dude. Best guy to do it, in my opinion. Best guy. Number one guy out of Detroit, for sure. I'm not saying anything negative against Dan, but look, even if he knows information, he's probably not going to say anything. That would just ruin his relationship. But unless you are a fly on the wall and in the room and have Brad Holmes' phone number in your cell phone, you don't know jack squat about anything. You don't, because Brad ain't telling nobody. He ain't telling nobody. As a matter of fact, they'll even keep things probably really close to the vest from people even in their own office, because things leak and people find leaks. People get paid off all the time to give out information. It's not legal, but yes, it happens. It's a wild business, media, man. It is wild. It's like the Wild West right now. So there we go. Let's put it to bed. Nobody knows. But now you've all dealt with it for a couple of weeks of all of this BS being floated out there. And I just don't like to see it. I'd rather see us, framing the conversation from a different perspective of, what if the Lions do this? Or what if the Lions bring this guy in? Or what should happen? Or what can happen, if we get this guy or that guy? Not this guy's coming, or, the deal's close, or, whatever. I do feel that the deal is closer now than ever before. But I have no idea who Brad Holmes has talked to. Not one clue. I could make some educated guesses based on a team's record, a team's salary cap situation, the player's contract, their value, their age. I mean, you can make a very high educated guess based on some of those factors. But outside of that, I'm just throwing darts up against the dartboard just like everybody else. And I have no problem telling you that, because until I'm inside the room, that's what I know. I mean, I have birdies, that tell me things from time to time, but I usually don't put that stuff out there because I don't really want to drive, and I don't want to ruin relationships either. So, all right, the second hour here, we're going to get into the Lions and Packers offense. Most notably today, we're going to be talking about Packers offense. We're going to do that after this ad from one of our sponsors.
Every day, thousands of people are discovering Uperlights, Michigan's newest, funnest rock to go find on the shores of the Great Lakes. Don't go out with just any light. Try the Convoy C8 from Uperlights.com. It's guaranteed for life, and you'll find all the ones everyone else misses. Quality UV lights that are perfect for Uperlights, with prices starting as low as $20. Please make sure to visit Uperlights.com for all your UV flashlight needs, with the best guarantees on the market. Just what you wanted and not what you didn't. The best quality, the best guarantees, and the best UV flashlights from Uperlights.com.
All right, so let's get into it. Now we're going to get into the second portion of the Turned Up Tailgates pregame breakdown edition. Every single season against NFC opponents or NFC divisional opponents, I usually do a multi-part series trying to break it down a little bit because it's hard to cram everything in 15 minutes or even an hour. I'm long-winded. You guys know that. I'm not the Motor City motor mouth for no reason, right? This part, though, I really just want to dive in on the Packers offense and kind of what they've been doing and where they're at and what the Lions are up against. And what do I see? What are the potentials for this weekend? And then this weekend, assuming that I don't make it to Green Bay, I'm highly out on even going to Green Bay. I'll probably do the third installment, which will break down, everything after the injury report leading up to the game. So before I get rolling, though, Eric, do you have any topics before we get into this?
No. I'm just ready to get right into this Green Bay offense. Let's get it rolling.
All right, let's do it. So, simple statement. How good are the Packers offense right now? What are they dealing with? Well, the Packers have run they've run on 54.6% of their plays with motion. And the reason why I'm making this statement early is because on motion, when they run a lot of motion, they run the ball just 33.3% of the time without motion. Let me say that all over again. I don't want to confuse anybody. The Packers have run on 54.6% of their plays with motion. But they run on just 33.3% of their plays without motion this season. Their plus 21.3% run rate increase on plays with motion compared to those without is the largest increase in the NFL. So what does that mean? I think I kind of said it backwards a minute ago.
Yeah.
When they are in motion, they are running the ball 21.3% more than when they are not in motion. Pre-snap motion is huge. And we've seen it with Ben Johnson. This last weekend, our pre-snap motion was perfect, man. They were dialing it all over the place. But to get people moving around, right? You get the tight ends moving around. Maybe you throw a tackle, to the other side, a swing tackle or whatever you're doing. You bring a receiver back, in front of the linebacker, or you kick a receiver out. Whatever you're doing, you're trying to position the defense to open up your running lane. And Ben Johnson does this at the best of anybody, but the Packers are also doing it at a very high clip. So pay attention to the pre-snap motion. If they are moving a ton, they're more than likely going to run it. And if I know this, and if we see this on tape, well, you know that the Lions know this. And this is where they're going to be able to kind of gear up, pin back, and target the ball carrier. The condition on this is, I'm going to make two quick statements on Jordan Love and Malik Willis. If Malik Willis is in, everything changes. Because now the RPO game is leveled up a few notches. I don't believe the RPO game is going to be as difficult with Jordan Love because of the groin. Whether he plays or not, I still don't believe that there is a way that he can play in this game without fear of injury or in not being in pain. With a groin just doesn't fix itself in a week. Of course, it really depends on what the grade or the seriousness is, what type of injury it really is, which I don't think we have any relevant fact on what the groin injury really is. Is it a labrum tear? Is it just a stretching pain? What is it? I don't know if Dr. Lau reviewed any of that, Eric, but I don't listen to the.
Yeah, they said that it was very not talked about. And
very not talked about.
Yeah, and if he had to guess that Jordan Love was going to play.
Interesting.
I have a feeling Jordan's going to play, and I have a feeling it's not out of whether he can do it or not. I think it's going to be out of he's cocky, especially against the Lions, and he wants to play in this game.
Well, I'm sure he wants to play, but yeah, we'll see. I do want to address Xavier McKinney's statement though in a minute. Don't let me forget, because he's spot on with his statement on the Lions. Completely spot on. All right, so I'm going to start with Malik Willis, because right now we just don't know what we don't know. Malik Willis has been sacked once, and he's completed 9 of 14 passes against the blitz for 97 yards and 2 touchdowns this season. Pretty good. Willis has also gained 34 yards on 4 scrambles against the blitz. In total, Willis has converted 7 first downs on 19 dropbacks against the blitz, resulting in a rate of 36.8%, which is on par with the NFL average of 36%. So he's playing at an average rate against the blitz, I guess you would say. But that's a pretty high average for a guy that hasn't played a lot of football. Now, the big matchup here is the Lions defense, where it has blitzed on a league high 46.1% of opposing dropbacks since week 7. Notice how I said since week 7. They have changed what they are doing defensively since Aiden Hutchinson exited, the team with an injury. And the Lions have allowed the 6th lowest success rate when blitzing during that span at 39.5%. Now, the Lions also recorded an average time to throw of 2.37 seconds and targeted a pass behind the line of scrimmages. I'm sorry. Malik Willis recorded an average time to throw of 2.37 seconds and targeted a pass behind the line of scrimmage on 35.9% of his total attempts this season. 2 starts, 4 total appearances. Why is that important? Eric, I'm gonna hotlight you right now.
Okay.
I'm gonna say this again, and I want you to tell me why, from a fan's perspective, if you know nothing about analytics or stats, why this would be important. So Malik Willis has recorded an average time to throw of 2.37 seconds while targeting a pass behind the line of scrimmage on roughly 36% of his total attempts this season. Why is that important? For the Lions defense.
Well, quick dink and dunk, get rid of it really fast. 2.3 seconds, that is super fast. And that means the edge and the interior defensive line cannot get to him. Even a DB, doing a blitz is not going, that's a blitz beater right there. Throwing something shallow behind the line of scrimmage in under 2 seconds. That's what that's going to do. That's going to defeat the blitz and open up the run game and other things for your running quarterback.
So there you go. I'll take it a step further. If they're getting the ball out in 2.37 seconds and the average sack time in the NFL is over 3 seconds, does it matter who your defensive ends are? Does it matter who your outside linebackers are? It doesn't. You could have Aiden Hutchinson, Max Crosby, Myles Garrett, and Darius Smith all on your team. Wouldn't help you at all because they got the ball out in under 2.4 seconds. They threw a pass behind the line of scrimmage. It takes you completely out of the play. So this is where, teams scheme against what you're doing well, and they'll use it against you. Now, Willis' time to throw and rate at which he targeted a pass behind the line of scrimmage in those games would rank as the 2nd quickest and also the highest marks of the season, respectively, among the group of 32 qualified passers this season with enough starts or enough pass attempts. Willis has also totaled a plus 14.1 expected points per average on passes thrown past the sticks this season. So he's 8 of 13, 182 yards and 1 TD, which is more than 10 qualified quarterbacks, including, get this, Jordan Love. He's playing better than Jordan Love when targeting passes beyond the sticks. That's it. That's all I got for Willis, other than RPO. Much, much bigger problem with Willis back there. He's able to use his legs. He's a big body. He's going to be hard to bring down, but he adds a different dynamic to this game. Right now, the Packers are forcing the Lions to prep for both, which I think they have to anyway, because even if Jordan Love gets to start and gets injured, which there's a high likelihood it would happen, Willis is going to come in. You've got to be ready. So this game is kind of shaping up to be, we could be trying to utilize a totally different style of a defense to plan for both and not put too much on the plate of the defense. Because sometimes you install too much, which they said last season, the Lions tried to install too much in that short window versus, right before the Thanksgiving Day game. And it really kind of made things muddy for them. They should have just went with a simpler plan, is what Dan Campbell said after the game. Not to those exact words, but to that point. Where now, they've got time. They're playing well. I think that they're probably putting the proper install in this week of how to plan for both, expecting that they could probably see both quarterbacks this weekend. Let's move to Jordan Love here.
Sure.
Do you have anything on Willis before I move to Jordan Love?
No, I was looking more at Jordan Love because I really do believe that Jordan Love is going to play in this game.
Okay.
I think if I had to just go by my gut, my wild guess, I think Jordan Love is going to play in this game.
So Jordan Love, he has averaged the fourth most air yards per attempt this season, 9.1 yards per attempt in the air, and thrown past the sticks at the fifth highest rate, 44.8%. That's big, right? When you look at what the Lions do, we try to get a lot of yak, it seems. I love the deep crossers. I love the fact that we do try to get beyond the sticks as often as we can, but quite often you see the Lions, they throw it short. It is the one thing that I really dislike about the offensive game plan at times is when we're throwing the ball short, especially on third down. Unless they plan on going for it, if it's fourth down territory, you've got to get that ball above the sticks. And I think that you really need to attempt to get the ball above the sticks on second down versus third down. Treat second down like third down. But anyway, about Love. Love is tied for third most touchdown passes, 11. But he's also tied for the second most interceptions with 7 on passes thrown past the sticks this season. So there's a liability here where Jordan Love is putting the ball up for longer throws beyond 10 yards, and he's getting picked off. And he's headed into the no-fly zone with Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, what will be Carlton Davis. Again, he's starting to play better week by week by week. Amik Robertson is yet to snag one, and Terry Arnold is yet to snag one. I think that the game is going to be wide open this weekend. If Jordan Love is in and he has to target some deeper balls, I'm expecting a couple of picks out of this game. It could be wet, could be muddy, might not be the best situation for passing the ball. And all of that is going to stack up against Jordan Love, against this DB room that is playing much better than what you see on paper. Now, since the start of last season, Love has thrown 35 touchdowns, tied for second most in the league. But he also has a league high 17 interceptions. Again, this is when he's targeting throws past the sticks. He has a problem throwing the longer intermediate, routes. Short routes, he's fine. But anything over the intermediate, route zone, he's having trouble. Anything in the deeper routes, he's having trouble. And I think that bodes well for what our defense can do. Now I'll kick it over to you, Eric. What do you have on Love?
Okay. So here's a little bit about Jordan Love. And it's kind of the same thing I noticed about Jared Goff. Most of their interceptions for both of these quarterbacks come between the hashes in the middle of the field between 1 yard and 10 yards. That is where most of their interceptions come from. And then you get a little further away between 10 and 20 yards. They're still getting interceptions. And then you get to the 20 and plus and just a few interceptions. So
hold on though. Hold on.
So like Jordan Love in the middle of the field from 0 to 10 yards has 3 interceptions this year.
But the numbers that I just read say something totally different.
And then from 11 to 20 yards, he has 2 interceptions in the middle of the field between the hashes. And then if you look at his long ball in the middle of the field, he has 1 interception. So he's got 1 interception and 3 touchdowns in the longer portion of the middle of the field. The middle of the field from 10 plus to 20, he's got 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And then short in the middle of the field, he has 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions.
So you're not including first downs in this?
No, I'm just looking at overall. where his interceptions are coming from, what part of the field his interceptions are coming from. You know, all the rest of the portions of the field, he has 0 interceptions or 1 interception. The biggest portion where he's got 3 interceptions and 2 interceptions is from 1 yard to 20 yards down the field.
Yeah,
somewhere.
Where'd you pull this so I can pull it up?
PFF.
Oh, PFF.
On the passing direction. Yeah. There's a chart with all of his interceptions on it where they happened. And I looked at the same thing for Goff the other day, and that is the exact same area where all 4 of Goff's interceptions have come from. Right in the middle of the field. And I don't know if that's defense is trying to take away the middle of the field and these quarterbacks trying to force it in, or if that's a defensive lineman putting their hand up and hitting the ball and deflecting it, and then one of the linebackers catching it over the middle. I'm not sure about that part of it, but that's where most of the interceptions are coming from for Jordan Love, is right over the middle of the field. And they don't have a chart like this for Malik Willis.
I'm not seeing the chart.
No,
I don't see the chart anywhere.
It's pressure and depth.
Yeah, I don't even see pressure in depth. I see passing pressure.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
but
Click on that.
There's no chart.
Weird. There's a whole chart with Jordan Love when I pull it up.
Yeah, why don't you email it to me real quick? Email me the link.
Here. Okay.
So obviously that's not taking into consideration what I'm discussing is when he's targeting the sticks, when he's going beyond the sticks, those numbers are very accurate, the percentages, right?
Yep.
What you're saying is the location on the field where these interceptions are coming from.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was, you said between 1 and 10 yards, he has
3 interceptions over the middle in the hashes. Yep.
And it's between the hashes.
Yep.
And I would say to Goff's standpoint, though, I mean, just to pick on Goff for just a moment, a couple of his interceptions, I mean, they should have been penalties. There was big time interference on a few of those. Just like last year to Sam Laporta, this year to Jameson Williams. One of the first interceptions that he threw, there was a definite pass interference that wasn't called, or defensive holding, or something. Yeah, I don't see this chart.
Yeah, man, I'm not having a good time trying to send you the link either. Why is this not letting me copy and paste?
You just got to go to the browser and copy it.
I did.
But anyway, I use Next Gen stats for all of these. They have a lot of passing charts on Next Gen or NFL Pro. So what is your conclusion? Like, what are you thinking here with where he's throwing the ball and where the Lions are having success here, or could potentially have success?
Yeah, I think if our D linemen can get their hands up, maybe deflect a ball, that my wild take for the weekend is that Terrion Arnold, if Jordan Love plays, will get his first interception of the season. That's my wild take for this game.
I would love to see TA get his hands on the ball.
Yep, I want to see him get his first one. And I think
Especially
this is
against the Packers.
Yeah.
You got to start it off right, man. First trip to Lambeau, you've got to start it off right. I think that would be huge. Kirby, obviously, he owns Lambeau right now.
Mm-hmm.
And love what he's all about. So I'm sure that he's getting TA, up to snuff here on what to do.
Yep. I was finally able to send that to you too.
Oh, you were able to send it?
Yep.
Let me see if I can get it open here. Okay. I thought you were showing me a passing chart. This is the passing direction chart. Okay, I got you. Yeah, so passing direction, center of the field between the numbers. He's got 3 TDs to 1 interception over 20 plus yards. He has 0 TDs to 2 interceptions in the middle of the field over 10 yards. So exactly what my numbers are speaking to is when he's over 10 yards, over the sticks, he has 3 interceptions, 4 interceptions, 5 interceptions. When targeting the ball 10 yards and beyond, he has 5 of his 9 interceptions this season are over 10 yards. The way you were saying it in the beginning made it sound like he was only throwing interceptions between 1 and 10 yards.
Oh no, that's where he has the most between 1 and 10 yards. He's got 3 in that quadrant. That's where he's got the most.
Yeah, but over 10 yards, he has 5.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, in total, over 10 yards. Okay.
Yeah, so if you added those together, yes, that would be correct. He's throwing more.
Yeah. The way I say it and the way you say it's just different. I'm targeting the sticks. Yep. When he has to go for it. So when he has to go for it on a 3rd and 8, a 3rd and 9, a 3rd and 10, a longer pass by Jordan Love, anything over 9.1 yards, he's having more opportunity for an interception. Shout out to Trace, just gifted 5 more memberships. We got Kinetic K615, Laurie King, Off the Top, Kirk Ozanek, and Mr. Detroit City, all gifted memberships by Trace. Trace, can't thank you enough for helping out the channel there. Obviously, all of that goes to Rocked On Cancer Foundation. And, of course, being a new member, if you'd like to continue on with your membership, you just got to let us know or let YouTube know before it expires in 30 days that you'd like to continue on with the membership. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you, Trace. All right, so the matchup. Lions defense has allowed the 4th lowest completion percentage. Yeah, my ear's bugging me today.
Uh-oh.
Lions defense has allowed the 4th lowest completion percentage and come away with 9 interceptions when defending throws past the sticks this season. So that's where my stats are. They're trying to match up here between what are the Packers doing, what are the Lions doing well. So again, the Lions defense has allowed the 4th lowest completion percentage, 43.6%, and come away with 9 interceptions when defending throws past the sticks this season, tied for the most such interceptions in the NFL. Jordan Love has averaged 10.7 yards per attempt when targeting open receivers with 3+ yards of separation this season. The 2nd most in the NFL, behind only, guess who? Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Now, Jared Goff is at 11 yards per attempt when targeting open receivers with 3+ yards of separation. So Love has averaged a league high 19.5 yards of air distance per completion when targeting open receivers, but has only completed 61.8% of his passes to open receivers, again, past the sticks. The 7th lowest rate in the NFL. Jordan Love has thrown a league high 6 interceptions on tight window passes. Love has also only completed 10 of 15 tight window passes for 190 yards when targeting either Jaden Reed or Romeo Doubs, but just 3 of 20 tight window passes for 0 yards, 1 touchdown, and 5 interceptions when targeting all other receivers. I think that's a huge statement here for how these Lions can, instinctually get themselves set up in the defense. But number 2 here, how they're going to be able to set up Jordan Love if he's playing. He clearly can't throw the ball. He's struggling this season. And I know stats are stats, numbers are numbers, tape is tape. And I can't say that I've watched a ton of tape on Jordan. I'm going to do a little bit more tonight. But just going by the numbers here and what I have seen, he's putting himself in a bad position. And it's not pressure that's putting him in a bad position. It's just the way he's throwing the ball. The decision-making process here is lacking for Jordan Love. Jordan Love has averaged 4.3 yards per attempt when facing man coverage, which Lions play a lot of man coverage. The second fewest in the NFL, only behind Will Levis at 4.3. So Jordan Love, again, has averaged 4.3 yards per attempt when facing man coverage. If you don't think that we're going to line up in man and get after these guys, I don't know what else Aaron Glenn would need to do. Jordan Love is struggling against man, but I still believe we have to have a linebacker, at least one, that is hovering in the middle zone. Maybe two. And maybe one safety that is bracketing down on somebody. But I would say that we need to sit somebody in the middle of the zone and be there to take away, those shots that Jordan is going to take trying to move the ball past the sticks. Jordan Love has also generated a negative 23.8 EPA versus man coverage. So that means your expected points per attempt is a negative 23.8.
Wow.
And this is the second fewest in the NFL behind only Karen Rodgers at negative 29.9. So for the matchup, the Lions defense has played man coverage on a league high 46.4%. So that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting man coverage against Jordan Love. I see the Lions, having a great day against Jordan Love if he's playing. But all of that changes if Malik Willis is behind center. All of that changes.
So here's a question for you, Will.
Sure.
Do you believe the Packers are better off with Malik Willis at quarterback this weekend?
Yep. I do. And I say that because he's healthier, number one. Number two, he can run the ball just as effectively, if not better, than Jordan Love. And I think the RPO game is kicked up quite a bit. And it's going to give the Lions a little bit of fits, depending on what Muhammad, comes to the table with this weekend. How does he, how's he doing his second act? If he plays just as well as he did in week one, last week, his first week for the Lions, I'm less concerned. I think that the Lions, if Malik is in, that's where you're going to want to have your big men in. Like, you're going to want to go 3, maybe 4 big men, and then put a couple of, speedy guys on the outside. Probably a lot more 5-man front, or, like we saw with the Packers, man, they were doing some funky defenses last year. Funky defenses, like things that I haven't seen anybody really do. I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions run more of a, 5-2-4 this weekend, or, go the other way, 4-2-5 quite often. We might even see a 5-6. You might have 6 DBs in there to 5 linemen. No linebackers. But wouldn't be surprised. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Especially if Malik is under center. We got to shut him down. Big question is, has the wick burned out for Dontavian Wicks? Love has completed just 7 of 15 passes to Dontavian Wicks when he has 3+ yards of target separation, resulting in a 46.7 completion percentage. It's the lowest among quarterback receiver duos with at least 15 open targets this season. Not too concerned about Dontavian Wicks this weekend. I'm more concerned about, the Jaden Reeds, the Christian Watsons, of those style of receivers here. So Jaden Reed, let's start with him. He has gained a league high 366 receiving yards when aligned in the slot this season, including 106 receiving yards over expected. The second most in the NFL. Khalil Shakir has 112 over expected. Reed has caught 6 of 8 targets on vertical routes run from the slot for 234 of his 366 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns. It's the most yards in the NFL. So for the matchup portion of this, how can we match up against Reed? The Lions defense has allowed the third most yards, 286, on 21 slot vertical route targets faced this season. Tied for the second most in such targets this weekend. So what does that tell you, Eric? I mean, if you have a definitive problem on your defense, you can't protect vertical routes. You're giving up the most yards or the second most yards on vertical routes to slot guys, fix it, AG. Like do something different. If you see that they're, in a vertical alignment, if Jaden Reed is in, the slot, well, you're expecting that vertical route. Bracket him. Bump him off the line and then, have your safety come down and cover. Bracket him. Don't let him go off on you. Now, can we allow one guy to have a good game? Sure, we can. But if that one guy is consistently getting first downs, then we're in trouble because it keeps the defense on the field, keeps offense off the field. Now, Jaden Reed this is crazy. This is a crazy number. I would love to see this if it was tracked with Barry Sanders. If we had next gen stats when Barry Sanders was running the ball, I think that the little thing that you see on maps, I don't know what you can call it.
Yeah,
it would be crazy. But Jaden Reed has traveled 1,358 yards in pre-snap motion this season, the most of any offensive skill player. So to say that they're using pre-snap motion just a little bit, he's running all over the place before they even snap the ball. Reed has also been sent in motion on 38% of his offensive snaps, which is the fourth highest rate in the NFL among players with at least 150 offensive snaps. Reed has also been in motion at the snap on a league high 102 times this season. He has also gained 188 yards across 20 combined receptions, across 20 combined receptions, 13, and then carry 7, and being sent in motion the fifth most in the NFL. Now, the Packers have also gained 140 yards and recorded 8 explosive gains on designed runs by wide receivers this weekend. So 2 points to be made here. One, Reed is clearly their motion guy. And when he's in motion, he's targeted. So the Lions need to pay attention to that for the matchup. If Reed is in motion, you've got, probably more of a 70% chance the ball is going to go his way. But at the same time, they might hand the ball off to him. The Packers have gained 140 yards in the TD and recorded 8 explosive gains north of 10 plus yards on designed runs by wide receivers this season. More than double the number of explosive gains on such carries by any other team. Jaden Reed has totaled 110 yards, 1 TD, and 5 explosive gains on designed runs by himself this season, both of which are more than any of the other 31 teams. That was supposed to be our JMO, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we were expecting out of JMO.
The old end around.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on this? Obviously Jaden Reed is a heavy part of this offensive scheme. If you had to do one thing and do one thing very well this weekend, I think you've got to keep Jordan Love and Willis contained in the pocket, number one. I mean, you have to do that every week. But more importantly, I think that you need to key in on Jaden Reed and do not allow him to get cooking, because the minute he starts to get cooking, everything else starts to open up. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, well, there's a couple things. I think that a lot of the yardage that you were talking about that the Lions defense gave up is something I talked to you about while we were sitting in the stands. It's this prevent defense where we have a lead and we let them just go up and down the field all they want, but when we get down to the red zone, we clamp it down. And I think last week, it's really worrisome when you have a receiver like Calvin Ridley that goes off for 120 yards in the first quarter. But what did we do the whole rest of the game? We locked him down. He didn't do anything the whole rest of the game, basically. They didn't score a single point in the second half. The Tennessee Titans didn't. So we did something. We switched something about midway through the second quarter where Ridley just ended up not being as effective. And then when they got down to it was first and goal from like the 1, and we stopped them 4 times, and it was turnover on downs, and we got the ball at the 1 yard line. So our defense is very stout when we get down into the red zone. It's just those 80 yards between the 20 and the 20, the goal line and the 20. That's where I think Aaron Glenn is fine with giving up a bunch of yards. He just doesn't want to give up a bunch of points.
Yeah. A couple of things from the chat here. I will say to anybody that doesn't believe that Brad Holmes is a top 5 GM, I'm sorry, man. I highly disagree. He is the only GM hitting on 88% of his draft picks 4 seasons in a row. There's no other GM that has come close to what Brad Holmes is doing. He may not be out making big moves. That doesn't make you a good GM. Spending money does not make you a good GM. Trading away draft capital and future draft cap, that does not make you a good GM. Retaining all of that and building a Super Bowl caliber team, that makes you a good GM.
Yeah.
And that's what Brad's doing.
Yeah, I'll say this. Who was voted GM of the year last year?
Right.
That's all you need to know.
Another thing in the chat. So Ed O'Neill had a question. He says, Will, do you think that this is the type of a game that we have to get a lead early? 14-0, 17-7. The answer is always yes. Always, always yes. One, it's Lambeau. And we know that the tide can turn in a heartbeat. One, with weather, it can turn. But two, things just seem to happen in Lambeau. And remind us all, Eric, who the hell is our refs this weekend?
Oh, God. He wears a Green Bay Packer uniform. His name's Clete Blakeman.
Yeah.
And, oh, my God, he's the one. I'm telling you right now, he is the one that has had all the bad calls.
I wouldn't be mad if Clete just disappeared, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. In recent history, he is the one that has had all the bad calls against the Lions. So, and I don't want it to be an excuse. I don't want the excuse of injuries. I don't want the excuse of the refs or it was raining that day or anything else. I don't want any excuses when the Lions go in and dominate the Green Bay Packers. And if it's the other way around and the Packers come out and smoke us, I'm not going to give up any excuses. I'm not going to be like, oh, it was the refs. Oh, it was this. Oh, it was that. No. If they put it together the better team that day and they're the better team, well, then my hat's off to them. I just don't believe that's going to happen.
Yeah. And I guess, Nick, here's what I'll say about Brett Veach. Just because you're winning Super Bowls doesn't mean that it's your GM. I mean, it doesn't mean that.
Yeah.
I mean, he was blessed with, the roster that he has. He's making some good moves. He's a great GM. Don't get me wrong. But I would absolutely put Brad Holmes in the same category. But Brad can't be in the same category until he gets a ring. I mean, he built the Rams team and then left and they won a Super Bowl. He gave them Matthew Stafford. They won a Super Bowl. So I look at the totality of what Brad Holmes has done. And there's not another GM out there that is not bringing in high-priced free agents, but bringing in the ones that are low-priced free agents that are having a big effect on the game. I mean, Marcus Davenport, everyone said that he was a lost cause. Dude is playing great. You can't help that, he was intentionally injured by an Arizona Cardinal. At least that's my take on the whole thing. You can't do anything about the injuries that anybody's going to face. Carlton Davis was probably the biggest knock. Missed 23% of his available games. Dude's playing great. Staying healthy.
Yep.
He's been banged up, but he turns right around and gets right back in the game. I think Brad's doing a great job. Top 5 for sure. Top 3 more likely.
Yeah.
All right, keep moving forward here.
Yeah. So I got a little subject for you, Will. I've been watching a few podcasts this week that include some Packer people. And one Packer person was saying that he hopes that LaFleur empties the playbook and throws the kitchen sink at the Detroit Lions like the Detroit Lions have the last 4 or 5 weeks to their opposing teams when they're up on them. So he's hoping to see some trick plays versus the Lions like the Lions have been doing to everyone else.
Who was this?
I don't want to say his name.
Okay. But it's a Packers podcast?
Yeah, it's a Packers guy that I do not like. He is the most smug, arrogant. I don't like him. So I'm going to be the better person, and I'm just going to say My mama said, if you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all about him. So I'll just say that.
Well, that's been long gone in this society.
Yeah, everybody's going to know who I'm talking about. But
I don't know, man. I only know of a couple of podcasts that are actually good.
He's been on a bunch of Lions podcasts this week, and he's a Packer guy, and he is just hoping. He thinks that the Packers are going to win, no problem, but he wants them to be up in the game and throw the kitchen sink at the Lions like the Lions did to all these other teams to show them that they're better than the Lions, I guess.
Well, guess what? The Lions probably pull out the most when it comes to trick plays, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if if our defense is going up against that stuff all the time, the last, 8 to 10 minutes of practice every Friday, pretty confident they're prepared.
Yep.
I don't think that we have anything to worry about when it comes to trick plays getting run on us because we'll be prepared. Doesn't mean that they won't get one off, but I would expect that it would be, limited at best. And if they have to resort to trick plays, that's fine. That just means that we're shutting them down, in other areas. We run trick plays because we can. But, we call them trick plays. I just think it's a play at this point. I don't even think they're really trick plays anymore.
Nope.
They're just what we do. And, people aren't used to seeing something that is, not your typical run and shoot.
And listen, I hope they try. You want to know why? Because a couple of weeks ago when we played the Vikings tried to do the pass to Jared Goff play. And what happened? Trevor Nowatzki sniffed it out right away and just stood in the way. And Sam Darnold he was not open whatsoever because Trevor Nowatzki just stuck with the quarterback. He's like, why is he running out to the flat? I'm going to stick with him. Blew the play up. It went nowhere. So we know how to defend all these plays because we go against them every day in practice.
All right, Romeo Doubs. The Lions have aligned their outside cornerbacks in press coverage at least on 35.8% of their snaps this season, the 5th highest rate in the NFL. The matchup for Romeo Doubs has really caught everyone. He's caught every one of his 5 targets versus press coverage this season from a wide alignment for 103 yards and a touchdown. All their Packers receivers have caught 3 of 9 such targets for only 19 yards. So Romeo Doubs, what is the rub with Romeo Doubs right now? And are you expecting, anything from Romeo Doubs, this weekend that we haven't really seen already?
I expect him to have a good game. I do. We really give up a lot of this over the middle stuff, and he's one of those over the middle guy. Maybe call him a slot merchant, whatever you want. That he just seems to have our number, and that's the one player I hope that we lock him right down.
Let me pull up some other stats on him real quick. Come on. All right, so far on the season, he's got 384 yards, 26 receptions, only 2 TDs. His long play is 39. He's got a pretty damn good average going on right now, 14.8 yards per catch.
That's really good. That's dangerous.
Versus the Detroit Lions, though, where's he going to have some trouble? I'm trying to find his alignment. I can't find his route tree. I don't know why Next Gen doesn't have his route tree in here. Where the hell is it? Well, whatever. I guess I'm moving on from Romeo Doubs. I can't find his route tree now. Okay, we'll move on to Dontavian Wicks. I think the Wick is burned out. I don't think we have to worry about Dontavian Wicks really much in this game. He's recorded team highs in target rate, 29.2%, Air yard share 26.9%. And total air yards 545, but he's only generated a negative 130 receiving yards over expected this season. So he's performing way less than expected. The fourth fewest in the NFL, to be honest with you. Wick's 29.2% target rate ranks fifth highest among wide receivers with at least 100 routes run this season. Even though I'm saying I think the Wick is burned out, I think that Wicks is probably going to get more opportunity than Romeo Doubs will in this game. I think Jaden Reed and Wicks are going to be the two highest targeted receivers in this game. Of course, it all depends on who's quarterback. But Wicks has caught just 3 of 20 targets over 10 air yards for 83 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's translating to the lowest catch rate of only 15% on such targets in the NFL. So the matchup this weekend, Wicks targeted just one time on 24 routes run against the Lions in week 4 last season. Just one time on 24 routes run last season, resulting in the lowest target rate, 4.2% in a game in his entire career. So the question is, what did we do last year to limit Wicks? What are we going to do this year to limit Wicks? And I'm sure it's going to be, more of the same.
Yep.
I think it's just going to be more of the same.
Peter Van Larhoven had a good little comment in the chat here. Romeo Doubs is the guy that refused to practice a few weeks ago and was suspended for a game. So we may not see a whole lot out of him.
So was he suspended last weekend then?
2 weeks ago, he was suspended for a game for refusing to practice because his targets were not up to snuff.
Yeah. So I still believe, Jaden Reed, Dontavian Wicks, they're going to be your bigger targets of the game. But Wicks, He has 16 receptions on the season, 192 yards, 4 TDs. He's got a 12-yard average per catch. And, there's big play opportunity for him. He's 6'1", 206. He's a 2023 fifth-round pick. He's come alive for whatever reason. Jordan Love has been able to work with him quite well. I'm not sure about Willis's targets to Dontavian Wicks and whether or not there's any sort of a real relationship there. I didn't dig that deep. But next up, we'll talk about Christian Watson here. He has been targeted on a career low, 17.2% of routes run this season. Watson has run a deep route, which is 20-plus yards downfield or more, also on a career low, 26.7% of his total routes. Now, could the Packers totally flip this upside down and say, okay, we haven't done a whole lot with Watson. If anyone's really studying the metrics here, they're not expecting Watson to go deep. Do they flip it this weekend and they start sending, Christian Watson deep and try to fool the Lions? Could. I'm not so sure that I'd be sold on that. Watson has also been targeted on a career low 16.1% of his deep routes this season. Watson has caught 2 of 5 deep routes or deep targets for only 74 yards and 1 touchdown. So his efficiency is there, right? But he's not getting the targets. Now, if we look at Christian Watson so far through the season, 13 receptions, 196 yards, 2 TDs, 15.1 average, 2022 second round pick. Pretty good player. Pretty explosive when he wants to be or when he can be. I just don't see it happening. If we look back at the last few weeks for Watson, he had 4 targets versus Jacksonville. 6 targets versus Jacksonville. Caught 4 balls for 39 yards, no TDs. Up against the Houston Texans, he only had 2 targets, 1 reception, 9 yards, no TDs. Up against the Cardinals, he had 4 targets, 3 receptions, 68 yards, 1 TD. Against Minnesota, pretty good defense. I'm not sure what happened in this game. Either he was held out completely or injured or something, I don't know. But he only had 1 target, no receptions, no stats to speak of. And then Tennessee, only 2 targets, 2 receptions, 67 yards, no TDs. So I think that, this season has been a little off for the Packers because they've been dealing with injuries to Jordan Love. So we just don't know what we're going to get from week to week. And this is yet again another week where the Packers are kind of up against it with Jordan Love. You know, they don't know if he's going to play. Some are speculating that he's going to play no matter what. And he could. But there's one guy that knows that the Lions are going to come to play. And that guy is Xavier McKinney. Xavier McKinney says the Lions are going to try to embarrass the Packers. You're damn straight we are.
Going to try to embarrass everyone.
We are coming into Lambeau, and we are going to try to put the stomp down on this entire team. So let me read this. Packers News says that Xavier McKinney was honored to be named the NFC Defensive Player of the Month, but his mind was elsewhere on Thursday. The Green Bay Packers veteran safety was thinking about the matchup Sunday against the Detroit Lions, who come to Lambeau Field with his best record, 6-1 in the NFC. And he was thinking how his teammates need to ignore the mystique of Coach Dan Campbell. All gas, no brakes. Love it. I love the all gas, no brakes, man.
How do you ignore that?
What's that?
How do you ignore that?
Yeah, right. And stay focused on what they're going to do to replace the Lions at the top. Yeah, that's not happening. Here's what he said. Obviously, they've got a really good team, and this is for the number one spot. So it's going to be a big game. We understand that. We're just preparing. We're getting ready. We're not really talking much about the Lions right now, except in film prep. Outside of that, we're not over talking about it. We're just preparing. How we know we should. We'll be ready to go on Sunday. In my opinion, I think they try to embarrass people. And I think this organization and the players we have in here, they don't really take that lightly. We know that's what they're going to come in here and try to do. Damn straight, McKinney. Damn straight. Here's what he also said. Me, personally, I'm not a big fan of that. Trying to embarrass someone. I don't really respect that. It is what it is. This is where I'm going to give a little pushback. When did the game of football become soft? When did you stop putting points on the board? Because I think that's what's gotten the Lions in trouble in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's these unwritten rules to the game where if you've got a big lead, you're not supposed to pass the ball. You know, you're just supposed to run the clock out. But why would you give your opponent an opportunity? Yeah, you shouldn't pass the ball for many reasons, right? One, you don't want to throw an interception. You don't want to put the ball in their hands with a pick six. You don't want to give them any opportunity to score points and close up the gap and potentially win the game or take it from you. But what is considered a lead you can't lose? Does that even exist, Eric? A lead that you can't lose?
No, I don't think it exists. And listen, the Lions have been winning by average margin of 14 points per game. It's incredible. And listen, the Lions could have put up 70 last week. No problem whatsoever. We took our starters out the last 2 weeks in the fourth quarter. We got to see Hendon Hooker twice in the fourth quarter. And he only threw one pass in each game, I think. And other than that, they were just handing the ball off. So if that's us embarrassing people, I'm sorry that we were ahead that much. But I think Dan has been very classy about it. We could have ran up the score higher on Dallas, and we could have definitely ran it up higher against Tennessee. No problem whatsoever.
Yeah, I think to your point there, yeah, we definitely could have hung 70. Maybe McKinney's talking about us doing, all of these, offensive line plays where we're trying to get, offensive linemen to score. You know what? Put yourself in our shoes. You're in cowboy territory. You just won a game, and then you had your throat ripped out by a ref. That's why there's no such thing as a lead you can't lose. I don't care if you're up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. You continue to try to put up points. The minute you stop putting up points, the minute you stop doing what you're designed to do, injury risk becomes higher. When you start to play protective football, injury risk becomes higher. If you play the game the way the game is supposed to be played, injury risk becomes lower.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know the exact stats on that, but I know it's a damn fact. You look at the teams that go in and try to play soft, and bad things happen. You have to continue to pound the ball. You have to stay aggressive. If you're not aggressive, that's when you start to get beat. And when you start to get beat, bad things happen. For instance, if Taylor Decker just goes soft because they're trying not to score and he lets an end get past and he crushes Jared Goff, and now Goff is done for the season because you didn't want to score points, because we didn't want to embarrass somebody. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'd rather see Jared Goff play and we win by 40 points.
I'll say this also. How many times has a game with the Lions and Dan Campbell been decided near or at the end of the game because of a call by a ref? Lots of times, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think Dan believes if we are ahead 3 scores in the fourth quarter, there's basically no way the refs can give the game to the other team. Let's take it out of the refs' hands, so no matter what calls we get against us, it's just not going to matter.
Exactly. And that's kind of been my point the last couple of seasons is, you know, the way you take the refs out of the game is by putting points on the board. And the way you keep the refs out of the game is you keep points off the board for the opponent. So no matter what you have to do to accomplish those two things, that's how you have to play the game to win. And it's always, who said it best? Was that Herm Edwards? You play the game to win, right? You play the game to win. You don't play the game to barely win. You don't play the game to just win. You don't play the game to win by 1 point. You play the game to win. Whether you beat them by 10 or 2 or 20 or 200, smack them in the face. Keep on motoring, man. Foot has to be pressed on the gas pedal. And you know what? If you pull out your starters and you put in your second stringers, you tell them to go for it. Now, when you get down into the red zone or you get down to the 30-yard line, yeah, run the ball a little bit more. But don't not try to get the first down. And if you've got to take a field goal, you take a field goal. Or you just run the ball as far down, as you can, and you pin them deep and you let them have the ball. You go for it on fourth down. If you don't make it, at least you pinned him a little bit deep, gave him bad field position. But I'd rather take the 3 points. I'd rather have my kicker, getting some opportunity, keeping his leg fresh. What else do you have for today?
Well, I think that this game is going to come down to who can run the ball the best. And what I mean by that is it is going to rain. It now says, let me see. I'm going to pull up the weather for Sunday in Green Bay.
Well, while you're pulling up the weather, let me just tell you about Josh Jacobs real quick. So you're talking about running the ball. Josh Jacobs has faced a light box on 49% of his carries and run from shotgun on 49.7% of his carries this season as well, both of which are career highs. Now, Jacobs had run from the shotgun on less than 30% of his total carries in each of his 5 previous career seasons with the Raiders. Jacobs has also generated a plus 85 rush yards over expected on shotgun carries this season, second most in the NFL behind Saquon Barkley at plus, Saquon's killing it, plus 226. So to your point, it's about what team is going to be able to run the ball better. What's the weather looking like?
Well, I'm going to tell you this. So starting at about 6 a.m., it is 100% chance of rain all day.
Game's at what, 4:25?
4:25. So it is going to be soaked. It is going to be wet.
How long is it supposed to rain for?
It's supposed to rain all day. with a chance of rain at 100%.
Well, we got
Rainfall-
48 hours. A lot can change there.
So rainfall at near a half an inch. Now listen to this. Originally, the wind was supposed to be light and variable. Now it is at a southeast wind at 10 to 20 miles an hour.
Well, thankfully, it's only Friday morning.
Yep.
Because I know how it is in Michigan. You know, it's snow and 11 inches of snow at noon. It's 70 degrees. You know, it's crazy. Anything can happen.
I am preparing myself for a low scoring, run the ball, dink and dunk kind of day. Once we see how slippery this ball is and just how hard it's raining, if it's just a mist, not a big deal. But if it's pouring all day, it's not going to be that fun of a game. It'll be fun to play in, fun to watch, but might not be that fun for scoring. So it
may not be a fun day for our offense. You know, here's an important factor, which, I'm going to highlight this stuff in the third series, but the offensive output that the Lions have enjoyed this season has been behind a dome, fair weather games. We have 2, possibly 3 games this season where bad weather could be a problem. None of us really expected this weekend to be a bad weather issue in Lambeau, and it's kind of shaping up to be that way. So this will be the first test for the Lions in what they can do in bad weather football game. Now, Jared Goff, you hear all the stories. He can't hold the ball. He's got small hands, can't throw in the cold. Look, just go back and watch week 18 of 2022. He did a good job. It was a really nasty, really cold, day. We obviously ran the ball well. Jamal Williams had a career day that day. And I think that's what we're going to expect out of Montgomery. Montgomery is going to be the guy. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to have his moments, but I think Montgomery is going to be the guy in this game. He's going to be the bowling ball. He's definitely going to be the knuckles, right? Spinning in that little bowling ball, and he's going to get rolling. This could be a loss. If the weather is that crappy, it could be a loss. Unfortunately, sometimes weather does decide games. And it could be nasty. And there could be a lot of penalties, because if you're just trying to stay on your damn feet, you might be tugging a little bit, on these receivers. You might be falling a little bit. You might have incidental contact. If I was a smart ref, I would say, yeah, the weather's impacting how they're playing. I'm not going to flag them for every little thing, because if I do, I better call it the other way, which I would expect won't happen. But anyway, go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah, I just believe this is going to be one of the old school black and blue division NFC Central showdowns. This is old school. This is going to be, you line up your biggest dudes against my biggest dudes, and we're going to see who can run the ball, because we're going to run the ball.
Yep.
They're going to know what's coming.
Well, I think we already knew it was coming by the simple fact that Christian Mahogany gets elevated this week. It's coming. Yep. We're just like you said in the chat. Who just said that? Peter Van Larhoven. Sounds like jumbo package and force the Packers to play smash mouth. Absolutely. This is black. This is black and blue football again. It's the NFC North Division. It's a rival game. It's going to be potentially nasty out, and you're going to have to line them up and smack them in the mouth. I expect the Lions to win that, but we are also going up against a pretty damn good defense. Numbers maybe tell you a different story. We highlighted it yesterday, but they're still pretty good. And they can shut down the run. We just have to find a way to win, find the lanes that are open. But I expect Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes, Hank Fraley to put together a game plan where, there's going to be more jumbo sets. There's going to be more 3 tight end sets, more single set backs, more single wide receiver sets. And that means the Packers are going to know we're running the ball. But, after you run the ball a few times and you do the same set, and then you pull out a tight end screen, or you pull out a quick tight end, slant or whatever, just so happens to go for 10 or 12 yards. Hey, I'm good with that. We don't need these big 30, 40, 50-yard gains to beat this team. We just need to win at any way possible. I want to highlight Al-Quad Muhammad for just a moment. Al-Quad Muhammad generated a team-high 7 pressures on 28 pass rushes. 25% pressure rate in week 8. Each of which came when he was aligned as an edge rusher. Muhammad generated more pressures as an edge defender in week 8 by himself than any other Lions defender generated when aligned as an edge defender from weeks 6 to 8. 6 to 8. That means the Dallas game. Muhammad played on 44 of a possible 71 defensive snaps. In his first NFL action since week 18 of 2022, he did this. He was a former member of the Chicago Bears back then. Now, only pick this apart for just a second and explain why this is important. Number one, they mentioned week 6. And obviously, Aiden Hutchinson played in week 6. Number two, he did it on 62% of the snap share. Whereas Aiden or anybody else we've had in is more like 85 to 95% of the snap share. So had he played more snaps, he probably would have had more pressures. So he did an extremely good job, highly efficient. I'm not as worried about the edge position when I read things like this or see stats like this. But I do believe the door is about to get answered this weekend or by Monday. We'll know. If nothing's done by Monday, I don't expect anything to happen, but at least want to leave you with some good positive news, about our defensive line, that we got some guys that can play. And I think that, between what is arguably the best defensive line coach in Terrell Williams and, Aaron Glenn, man, is he shaping up to be defensive coordinator of the year? Could be. It's possible.
Yep.
It's possible. All right. What do you want to finish with?
Well, for one quick thing. So a couple people mentioned this guy in the chat, and I looked a few things up here. Tucker Kraft.
Yep.
So if we're going to worry about anybody, especially with it being a sloppy, wet, messy game, as far as passing goes and short stuff, I'm thinking Tucker Kraft is who we need to worry about. He's got 24 receptions on the year, 342 yards, averaging 14.3 yards per play. But this is the big one, 5 touchdowns. The guy is getting a lot of looks down in the red zone. So if anybody's going to scare me, it's going to be Tucker Kraft this weekend. That's the one guy I want to watch out for, because we have not always been the best against opposing tight ends with our.
Hold on. Hold the phone.
Sure. Go ahead. That's just me looking at it from a fan's perspective. How many times has a tight end burnt us?
Yeah.
Maybe not recently.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, statistically, though, the Lions, I want to say, are the 5th best against tight ends right now this season.
Yeah.
And in the red zone, we have completely shut everybody down. Lost my mic. And I would agree that, obviously Tucker's a problem.
Yeah.
Especially, in a game like this, to your point, wet, sloppy, nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Tight ends are going to be utilized a lot.
That's where I think Sam Laporta could have a good game as well. And Brock. So. Yeah.
So red zone offense allowed. Detroit Lions have allowed 9 touchdowns, which puts them 6th place in the NFL right now. They've allowed only 9 touchdowns. They're 6th best team in the red zone. They've allowed 54 points. They've had 46 plays run against them. They've only allowed 183 yards in the red zone. Rushes allowed on 14 attempts. They've only allowed 51 yards, 3.6 yard average, and 5 TDs. Passing allowed They've only allowed 12 of 32 completions, 5.5 yard average, 66 yards, and 4 TDs. So they're kind of split between rush versus TD.
Yep.
Turnovers forced. The Lions have turned over 6 times in the red zone.
Incredible.
2 interceptions, 8 sacks, 4 forced fumbles in the red zone. Where does that put them? That puts them, oddly enough, closer to the middle of the pack, like 12th or 13th.
Wow.
The Carolina Panthers are number 1. Bengals are number 2. Well, they're tied for 1. Panthers and Bengals are tied for 1.
And how many games have they won?
Hold on. Here you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You've got 8 teams tied for second place with 8 turnovers. The Browns, Broncos, Texans, Chargers, Jets, Raiders, Niners, Titans, and Falcons. You've got the Cardinals sitting alone, tied for 3rd with 7 turnovers. And then you've got the Lions tied for 4th with, 7 other teams with 6 turnovers. So not terrible. Our red zone D has been great. Let me look up the tight end. Against tight ends, so far the Lions have allowed 3 reception TDs, which would be 6th worst, I guess you could call it. 6th worst. The 49ers have allowed 6. The Packers have allowed 5. So there you go. You're calling Sam Laporta.
Yep.
Steelers and Browns have allowed 4. And then the Bears, Lions, Bills, Vikings, Falcons, and Saints have allowed 3 touchdowns to tight ends in the red zone. 3 touchdowns to tight ends, period, not just the red zone. So I think it's stacking in our favor. But again, to your point, look, you can only cover so much, right? You can only hope to shut down so many guys. And if you're trying to shut down Dobbs and you're trying to shut down Watson, you're trying to shut down Reed, which maybe they're not passing a lot because of the weather, and then they got the run game kicked up, and if Will Levis is behind there, you're going to have to protect, against the run and then try to take Tucker Kraft out because he could be that slippery, that slippery problem for us, even though our defense has been playing well. Again, weather could be the factor. So, yeah, I like it. I like where it's shaping up to be. So what's your score for the week?
I have 34 for the Lions, 17 Packers. That's what I predicted before the season. That's what I'm going to stick with. Might be lower scoring than that with the weather. Might be something closer to like 21-10, but I still predict the Lions to double the score of whatever the Packers put up.
All right, so Lions and Packers. My score prediction in the preseason was 21-19.
Ooh, close.
Lions. 21-19. And I think that I'm going to go ahead and keep it right around there. If it's wet, I'm not seeing field goals.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to be a tight game like we had with the Vikings?
It could be. Look, okay, without knowing the weather.
Yeah.
Going with the weather it is today. This is why it all changes on Sunday morning. Going with the weather today, I see the Lions 22-15. And the reason why I say 22-15 is because there might be a 2-point conversion that is needed. You know what I'm saying? They're trying to get those conversions because it's tail end of the game, and they're trying to get it close to get another touchdown. So I'm gonna go 22-15. Lions win.
Yep. And my biggest thing of the weekend, my wild take of the weekend is that Terrion Arnold gets his first interception on Jordan Love.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I hope he does. Game is shaping up to be a good one. So for the rest of the schedule this weekend, Did I have the schedule? Let me roll to a different page here real quick. Nope, it's not on there either.
Hey, Dan, another week to go.
Not there either. There we go. Weekly schedule, Rise and Grind Morning Show, 8 to 10 a.m., Monday through Friday. Fantasy Football Tonight is now back on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Members only is typically on Tuesdays or Thursdays, but I've got it scheduled for Thursdays at 8 p.m. And then, let's see here.
Yeah, and all you people that were gifted memberships, you guys are allowed to come in and watch the members only videos.
Yeah, they should get notified. They should get notified. Why is this not playing?
We have well over 100 subscribers there.
Members, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so weekly pick'em is during the pregame show on Sundays. So if depending on when the game starts, if it's a 1 p.m. game, I try to start, around 11 a.m., get the pick'ems started or start talking about some pregame. And then once the injury report comes out, we finish the weekly pick'em. Lions pregame show, it starts 2 hours before kickoff. It'll run for about 60 minutes. And then Lions live game stream will start roughly 15 minutes prior to kickoff. So that is going to be the new schedule going forward for right now. Of course, we'll have more things popping up throughout the week, guests, whatever. I'm trying to work on some more guests now that Eric has more time too, that we can work on getting some guys. Here's what I'm going to finish with. So I can get these things open here. Dan Campbell, 6-1, first time since 1956. Jake Bates, 11 straight field goals to start his Lions career. Most consecutive field goals made to start a Lions career in team history. Jared Goff, first player in NFL history to have 2+ TD passes, 110+ passer rating, and a 72% completion rate or better in 5 consecutive games. Offensive Player of the Month, Jared Goff. NFC Offensive Player of the Month, Jared Goff. Detroit Lions win an NFC Offensive Player of the Month award. The only Lions to win an NFC Offensive Player of the Month award, Jared Goff in 24, Calvin Johnson in 2013 and 2012, and then Barry Sanders in 97, 94, 91, and 89. He's in rare air, and he belongs there. Jared Goff, 77.8% completion rate versus the blitz. First in the NFL. Fewest games needed to log 20 rushing TDs for a team since 1970. David Montgomery. Tied for 4th place. 21. 21 games needed to log 20 rushing TDs. Excellent work, man. Excellent work. The Lions have had 3 different players win a Special Teams Player of the Week award this year. Well, guess what? It's all of them but the snapper. Jack Fox, Jake Bates, Khalif Raymond. The only other time that they have done so was in 1993. We already went over that one. Jahmyr Gibbs is the 4th player in NFL history to average at least 5 yards per carry, minimum 10 attempts per game, in 6 straight games, joining Adrian Peterson in 2012, Chris Johnson in 2019, and Franco Harris in 1972. 6 straight game this past weekend. He's now averaging over 5 yards per carry. Next one up, Khalif Raymond joins Terry Fair as the only non-kicker punter to win multiple Special Teams Player of the Week awards for Detroit. And then since 1941, there have been 3 instances in the NFL where a team has logged a 90-plus yard punt return and a 70-plus yard kickoff return in the same game. The Lions, at the most recent, just happened on October 27th, the Rams in 2014, and the Browns in 1994. Kirby Joseph is the first Lions safety to record 5 interceptions in a season since none other than Glover Quinn. My big shout out for Kirby Joseph, unfortunately, at the behest of Glover Quinn, is his record will be broken. Kirby is going to break the record. He has 13 interceptions through the first 3 seasons of his career, tied for the third most by a Lions player since the 1970 AFL-NFL merger. And you know what? Brian Branch is right behind him. These guys are going to be neck and neck. I'll end with this one. The Lions have the highest point differential through the first 7 games of a season in their history. I'm sorry, third highest point differential. In 1954, they were plus 140. In 1934, they were plus 118. In 2024, plus 100.
So plus 140 is insane.
What's that?
Plus 140 is insane.
Yeah, absolutely is. Anyway, a little bit of some fun trivia fact. I would like to start trivia. I think that would be a fun little segment. Maybe we'll start that next week, Monday, when we get back to hopefully doing our over-under trivia. And we'll also throw in some Lions trivia. And maybe we'll start doing some little awards or prizes or something like that for trivia members if you guys want to do it. Or maybe we'll do, I don't know, maybe we'll just do a nightly segment. Probably going to get back to doing Off the Cuff. So Off the Cuff used to be on Mondays and Thursday nights at 8 p.m. I might get back to doing that podcast. We'll see where it goes. I want to try to bring in a couple more people. There's a couple of people that have responded. And of course, if you guys are interested, if you know anybody that's interested, that want to start a podcast, I don't care what the genre is. I don't care if it's sports. It can be anything. If you want to start a podcast and have the benefit of working with individuals that kind of have a little understanding of what's going on here, we can help. And we can help with getting subscriptions or equipment or whatever you need to get you started. But most importantly, the training and the understanding of how all of this stuff works. We've got some good people around us right now. We've got more people coming into the fold here soon. But if you would like to start, let us know. If you'd like to join the show as a guest, if you'd like to write, if you would like to do, any sort of work involved. If you have a child that's in college that is looking at media and broadcasting, needs an internship, be more than happy to offer an internship. Just email us at mailbag@rockdon.com and we'll get you guys set up. So that's it for Rise and Grind Morning Show, November 1st, 2024. Headed to Lambeau. The Detroit Lions are taking on the Green Bay Packers in what is the showdown for first place in the NFC North. Do the Lions hang on? Does the weather hang on? We'll find out on Sunday afternoon at 4:25. Right now, I'm planning to be right here doing a live game stream. I'd love to see you guys all back in it. You never know. We might do the pop-up helmet giveaway during that live stream. So be here or not. That's your choice. But I'd love to see you guys back. Eric, final 30 seconds for you. What do you got?
All right. I can't wait to see you guys all at Lambeau. This is going to be my first trip inside of Lambeau Field. I'm hoping it is Ford Field West, and it's a sea of blue. I know a lot of my friends are going. It's going to be a blast. One of my super fans, Joe, hooked me up with a ticket, and it is going to be amazing. I'm going to have to contain my hatred for the Packers for a day, and let's see if I can make it through this game without having a heart attack.
Yeah, speaking of heart attacks, man, yeah, what a different week for me going through all this stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't have a heart attack, but no, just getting everything worked out. Interesting stuff. All right, I am excited about this game, and I'm going to recap one more time. We are going to do a third installment where we're going to be looking a little bit closer at the Lions offense and the Lions defense. Now that we've recapped the Packers offense and defense, how are these Lions going to tear them apart? Are they going to be able to do it? How close is the game going to be? We'll know more Sunday morning when we get into the final installment during the pregame show. We'll see you guys back then. Have a great day. Go on Pride, go Detroit Lions. We'll see you later.
In the city, where the road meets the night, the Lions charge, ready for the fight. No more hearts and steadfast pride. Detroit spirit, we wear it white. Feel the drive, hear the crowds embrace. charge, ready for the fight. Noble hearts and steadfast pride. Detroit spirit, we wear it white. Feel the drive, hear the crowds embrace. Rocked on, Detroit Lions will rise. Rocked on, Detroit Lions will rise. With a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. With every game, we rise and unite. Fueling the passion, igniting the light. Through highs and lows, we'll stand as one. A legacy, a tale that's just begun.